Hey guys, this is a short run through of just putting all the thoughts together in terms of training for the average person. So first up, it is not this overly complicated thing that requires a degree in rocket science, nor is it this over-the-top thing that you can't recover from. So first off, keeping it simple, there's just a handful of movement categories. You don't have to hit every muscle from every angle a different way, like you're fighting the Borg, and if you do one thing one way, the phasers work this time, but they won't work the next time. It's not that at all. So very simple, handful of movement categories. Two, this is not something that you can't recover from or that you're always going to be sore, tired, achy, fill in the blank. You want to train roughly every 48, maybe every 72 hours. So hit full body strength, 3 times a week. If you didn't sleep well, something comes up, just push it back a day, but hit 3 days a week. The other days, just easy, moderate cardio, or if you're really beaten up, just do some easy stretching. You don't have to go out and redline it every day of the week. And even with the strength training, that's not going to be redlining it either. There is a place for hard effort, but you always want to move skillfully. We see a lot of caricatures in the gym or in the popular media, whether it's the, oh God bless them, the broccoli-headed baby bros who maybe played football and they overarch their back and they shut things down and come up and it looks ugly and everyone says, oh, strength training, that's dangerous. I'm not going to do that. That is bad strength training. That's not the model we're going to be talking about. And in terms of moving and lifting skillfully, let's talk a little bit about the dosages on that. If you're just getting started, honestly, I think 2 sets of 8 to 12, and that last rep or two should be right at the edge of your ability, but you should still be able to do it safely. I'm just demoing like a chest press here. So you shouldn't be able to stop at like some magic number, like 8 or 12 or whatever. But in real life, maybe you can knock out 15 or more. Those last couple of reps should be a challenge, but you should still be able to do them safely. So that's going to be a bit of a learning process. Also, don't jump right into this thinking that every rep, every set has to be this, perfect thing. There's a learning curve to all of this. So the pressure to either, go full on out, right from the get-go, or being scared to push yourself. So there's that. I could keep going, but I was talking about sets and reps. Let's go on that for a minute. It takes a lot less than you think. Generally, 15 to 30 reps total goes a long way. So in this case, I was talking about 2 sets of 8 to 12. That's a really good beginner point. So you do 8 to 12 reps, rest, take 2 minutes. This isn't aerobic training. And then you rest, you recover, maybe stretch a bit between sets, you go again. When you can do that weight for 12 times, then it's time to go up in weight and then drop the reps back down to 8. As you progress further, there are various sets and rep schemes. I'm currently doing 4 sets of 6 for most of my big lifts. And the first one is, that's a lot more volume, and it's also a bit more intense. So that is, the first set's pretty easy. It's roughly 50%. Second set is easy moderate, so gone up a little bit. Third set, moderate hard. And then that fourth set, that's as much as I can do for 6 reps safely. I still have 1 or 2 left in the bank, but I want to make sure I do the lifts with a high level of control, a high level of skill, and really earn the right to go up. Let's talk about, so there are all kinds of sets and rep schemes, but the idea is you don't change the variables every time. You say, all right, this is going to be my sets and reps roughly, and just work on improving, getting stronger within those. So You don't have to change this every time. You don't have to confuse your muscles with any other silliness. Next, let's talk movement categories. First, there is quad dominant or knee dominant leg work. Generally speaking, the squat is my favorite. I'll show you a few iterations. So obviously body weight. So here's what I like to initially teach it. Just pretend you're gonna help somebody pick up a couch to keep your back straight. You come down, back to the hands inside the ankles here, and then you stand up. So that's just your introductory version right there. Then later you can add load. And I do have a little caveat here. And if you're dealing with diastasis recti, so if the muscles of your abs have gotten stretched out, either because of pregnancy or weight gain, then you might need to go more with single leg, which I'll show you next. And let me get this guy over here. So if you need to make single leg work a little bit more forgiving, then you elevate your front foot. So I've got a little step guy right here. Not quite in the shot, but you get the idea. So my feet are about hip width, up on my toes and my back foot, and I go forward. So that way you get to really load up the front leg quite a bit. And if you're holding a weight, especially if you're training at home, you don't have to worry about putting a strain on these muscles here. Obviously, as you advance, you can go with both feet on the same level and add load. Since I do have some toys out here, let me just do a quick setup on a few things here. Let's start with the goblet squat. You can use a dumbbell or kettlebell. I like to hold this with the handle pointed down, elbows latched to my sides, and the feet are turned out a little bit, so you don't have to do, like, am I a rock'em sock'em robot? Your feet do not have to be perfectly parallel, just whatever works best for your particular dimensions. Come on down, this pushes me into this nice stretch, and then I come back up. You can use dumbbells, kettlebells, all kinds of great options. That's a really good way to learn to squat. When, even as a trainer, when I was working at a hoity-toity pinkies up place, kind of glossed over mechanics, and I thought this was a squat. That's not a squat. So when in doubt, start with the arms acting as plumb lines, progress up to goblet. Barbell, which can scare a lot of people, is actually not that scary. And let's go over a couple other fine points with this as well. When I was setting this up, and really all squats, I like to cue what I call Elvis hips, because a lot of times we kind of hang out here, a little too much arch in the back. So Elvis hips, ribs locked down, and then tongue to the roof of your mouth, because your head position, if I do this, everything just falls apart. So right there, I've got this really solid column. And then if you're ready for barbell, then again, you're not splaying open, you're not doing this crazy hard arch. Elvis hips, ribs closed, tongue to the roof of the mouth, strong grab, and there you go. I'm still pitched a little forward, kind of on a hill here. So let's see if I can get that to work for me. See, now I'm a bit more upright. So you want to stay as upright as you can. You don't want to pitch forward. So that is the big, scary barbell back squat right there. Split squats, obviously I showed you front foot elevated, feet both on the same level. You can also make this harder, and you can add load to any of these variations, by the way. You can also elevate your back foot to make this more challenging and to add a bit of a stretch as well. So that is just a handful of quad dominant, knee dominant leg options. Next, let's go upper body. So it's just delightful out here today. Upper body, horizontal press. And I love bench, but if you need to start with machines, that's fine. Just find an angle where you don't want to go super close in, super far out. Just find an angle where you feel the chest working and then press. I am not so big of a snob that I would say you can't use machines. If you need to, use them. If you're at home, then you can do push-ups. And again, start with your hands elevated. I can't lug everything out here, so you get the idea. You start off, if you need to, at a higher elevation. As you get stronger, work down to a lower. If you are dealing with diastasis recti again, you might want to stick with a higher elevation, or go with using the bench and doing pressing. Just your mileage may vary. So with all that being said, again, Elvis hips, ribs closed, tongue to roof of mouth, and you don't want to turn things off and collapse. A lot of times people do a small elbow bend, drop the head, and then sort of come up. Don't do that. So here, all those cues apply, down, and then up. And again, do the level that you can do skillfully. If you're at the floor or the ground, I really like to go all the way to the ground. It standardizes, solves a lot of problems, and you know whether you did a correct rep or not. So again, I create way more tension than I think I have to. I lower to the depth, and then I press up. Yeah, one more like that. And when in doubt, if you really need to build your strength, machines are fine. Start with that. Speaking of machines, another big favorite, this is in that chest pushing category, dips. They have machines over at, that help you do these. Or if you're training at home, this is one of my favorite pieces. This will run you, this is an ultimate body press. I've seen knockoffs, that'll be about $100. I've seen knockoffs on Amazon for about 50 or 60. You don't need to spend a fortune for this. So here, all those same cues apply. You notice that I'm not sinking into myself here. I'm aggressively pushing away. And I keep everything turned on as I come down, and then it come back up. I do pitch a little forward here, and then come back up. As you get stronger, you can take out the help. But again, use as much help as you need. So those are really the two main chest presses that I'd like to address here. Next, let's go with picking weights up off the ground. There are three main ways I like to do this. And there's really a time for mobility and a time for stability. When in doubt, start with stability first. And that's where you keep your back straight. All those same cues apply. The knees are a little soft, and hinge back, and then you grab your weight and stand up. So I'll show you here with kettlebells, dumbbells, and barbell. So this is more of a stable option. I squeeze the bar, the handle, all those same cues. And I reach this back, so there's an imaginary line my heels are on, and I'm reaching back to that line, like so. And since we've got the bell, I'll show you the kettlebell progressions. The next is the Bulgarian goat bag swing. So you hold this against you, elbows pull back, drive back, and then up. So that is going to really load up the hamstrings and glutes. Keep it a nice straight back. And we'll just do the whole swing progression since I'm set up for it. Next is the clean. So from here, I'm holding at the top of the bell. My hands slide to the side of it, and then up. At the top end of this, you notice that I'm not going way back here. I'm stopping right here on this nice vertical line. And then when you're ready, then the swing. You notice this is driven by the hips. I'm hinging still. The arms are just going along for the ride. Keep a nice straight spine. And just to show you, this is really, it's not a squat in the front raise. I'm driving this all with the hips. Single arm is a bit more advanced, but I wanted you to get the idea. Whew. That's appreciable. And then let's go with dumbbells. Show you with that very quickly. Again, you notice my back stays nice and straight. Then I come up. So there is that. Same thing. The barbell gives you a lot of interesting options. You can, especially if you're going heavy, you can do mixed, one over, one under. I'm currently doing what's called Jefferson curls in my program. So it's a little lighter. So you can go a little wider with this. And again, it's gonna work your grip strength a bit more, work the upper back a bit more. A lot of good options. Whew. And then I did mention mobility as well. So I really like the Jefferson curl. That's where you roll through your spine, keep the legs fairly straight, and you get to roll up segmentally. That really fills a lot of gaps. Because here I'm just braced, my back pretty much stays in one position. This really lets you get some movement. So going from, I'll show you here with this guy. Going from an elongated position to a shortened one. This doesn't really work with the hands close together. So I'll show you with the barbell. And again, they have those easy curl bars, so you don't have to go right to the 45 pounder. Get to roll through. Nice big stretch there. And then roll up. This was a really popular movement up through the mid-century. Really good for addressing all those back muscles and also lengthening the hammies. Then let's go back to another push. Again, this is probably one of the more variable ones depending on your shoulder health. If you need to start with single arm, that's fine. A lot of times when we go overhead, we drop down into this position here, but almost everyone can bring one arm up and stay nice and tall. So, a little easier. Start here in this. You can even let this guy turn a little bit, but just bring him up, north-south. The weight, the arm is right next to my ear. I'm staying nice and tall, nice and strong through the legs. Up. Just like so. Now, if you got yourself a kettlebell, and by the way, starting weights for most people, for men, I'd say probably, make sure I got the right side out here, I'd probably say a 12 kilogram and a 16 kilogram bell would give you a lot of mileage. For women, probably starting at an 8 kilo bell and a 12 kilo bell. The reason I have this out is if you're pressing a kettlebell, you don't win points by making that outside of your wrist angry. So if you need to, get yourself a wrist wrap, wrist guard, and then up. So you notice I have a little bird's nest right here on my arm. Thumb is right here on my sternum. And then it just naturally rotates up. Then you bring it back in. Stay nice and braced, so glutes tight. Again, if you're dealing with diastasis recta, you may want to keep a hand here as a tactile reminder to keep this pulled in and not let that pop out. And then, obviously, we've got my next favorite, alternating. So, 1 and 1. And then, I really love the barbell overhead press, but not everyone has the shoulder mobility for it. So again, a little easier to start here, right here at the collarbones. Press up, push your head through there, bring it back down. If you've got the mobility, I really like the behind the neck press, but again, your mileage may vary. And again, remember, we're keeping this in a handful of simple categories. Knee dominant leg, hinge for the leg, or pick weights up. press for the chest, press for the shoulders. And then last up, well, not quite last up, but we're getting near there, is some sort of horizontal pull or vertical pull. Usually I'll do one pull per workout, and I'll alternate workouts. So workout A might be more of a pull-up, workout B might be more of a row. Now if you've got the dip station here, then you don't have to think about much. You just climb in underneath. And if you need to, you can break this into a 4 count, where you bring the hips up and drive up for 1, control down for 2, low for 3. That's 3 count, sorry. 1, 2, 3. As you get stronger, stay lifted. And as you get stronger still, you can elevate your feet to do a higher percentage of body weight. Let's keep this party moving along. You can also opt for single arm rows. And by the way, if you're training at home, getting an adjustable set of dumbbells, I really like these guys where you can screw the caps off and on. I didn't feel like lugging all the weights out from the garage, but you can load this thing up to like 60 pounds plus the weight of the handle. So you get a lot of mileage from that. So you can go braced, you can post off from something, you get a really nice stretch, and then bring it up. So the fixed weight here. So always controlling the weights. I'm never just shutting off, dropping it, going to the end, and then trying to lurch it back up. Always control the weights. And since I have, I'll show you some double arm options as well. So again, hinge the hips back, bring it up. So these guys are gonna naturally want to turn. So have a little fun with that. Keep your elbows and shoulders happy. And if your shoulders and elbows can tolerate it, I do this a lot when I'm at the gym, because I just go right from my squats to my Jeffersons, to my presses, to my rows, and it just keeps things moving. You don't have to spend forever in a day in the gym. So bring it up, and just play with the width of your grip, just to make sure your wrists, or excuse me, your elbows and your shoulders stay happy with you. Not set up for showing pull-ups, but we're gonna have to just play mime for a second. Vertical pulling. If you're dealing with, again, that stretching out of those abdominal muscles, you might need to skip this and just stick with horizontal pulling. But because this can pull you into too much of a stretch position, so you want to be a little cautious about that. With the lat pull down machine, that's absolutely fine. The thing where people run into trouble is they hold on this way, so it's just finger strength. You want to get the knuckles on top there. So the underside of the knuckles are over the bar. You're going to feel a lot stronger. I'm going to get down here so you see better. I like to go into a full stretch position. I lean back to get it started, and then I pull up. So I bring my chest up to the bar, and then stretch position. Boom, boom. I've done some videos on pull-up progressions, so I can put those in as well. But those are the two main ones. And if, let's say you can do 1 or 2 pull-ups, and you're hearing these like, hey, 6, 8, 12 reps, don't fret. Basically just get in there and do 1 or 2 good reps, stop, shake your arms out, take 30 seconds, and go again. And you can accumulate reps that way. And just over time, you might go from 1 rest to 2 to 3, and so on. So don't give up that way. Also, you know, you can use the assisted machine. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but it's not the worst thing either. So we've covered the main exercises I wanted to cover. Then abs. Again, if you're dealing with diastasis recti, you want to just train this to be an innie. Just really, elbows, hips, ribs closed, because there's that tendency, just because these guys got stretched out, so let that, drop forward. So if you need to, you can even start with, sorry, I'm looking around at the stuff I have. Most of the stuff I've seen in terms of retraining these muscles has you lying on the floor, doing gentle leg raises, things like that. Time is really precious, so I'd rather see you brace correctly and do higher ROI activities, and then when you do address this, maybe starting off just with staying in here and maybe balancing. You can hold on to something if you need to. So even just doing that really has me lit up. It's also training this to be reactive. So if I get do a misstep, this is going to catch me staying pulled in. Since we're here, you can also train these guys. So just a nice high angle, set everything right. You can do things like slow knee raises. One of my big favorites is to go seated. Just pretend I'm seated. I'm just going to go tall kneeling here. And this is pulled in as much as I can get. I turn, I exhale, get all that air out. Come back to center, inhale. You can even relax for a moment if you need it. Exhale, get all that air out. There are so many options. But generally, you want to train to have an innie. Also work with your breath to that way it's what was unconscious becomes conscious. You're aware of it. You can address that even throughout the day. It's not like you get to the end of the day and why does my back hurt? You're like you catch yourself more quickly. You get to fix that. Generally with the ab work, I do like to go from a stretch position to a shortened position, both on working the front line here, working the sideline. Since I did mention the sideline, this is a great one you can do. Let's make sure I'm in the shot here. Again, you only want to do stuff you can do well. So if you're like, hey, I can do something flat with my feet braced under something, do that. So you might start with that. Just get the muscles turned on, curl in, or if you need a little help, do a little snow angel to get you started. Control that back down, little help, and then just that way you don't have to do kind of a lurch to get yourself up off the bench or off the mat. And side, the quadratus lumborum is important. These guys are usually what gets tight, weak, and sore, contributes to a sore back. So from here, I'll show you this side. Make sure I'm in that shot. If you need to, you can always hold on to something for a little bit of help. This is one of my favorites. So the trick isn't to cinch the top side short, it's to work against gravity as I'm going into that lengthened position and then come back up. So again, glutes tight, hold in as best I can. So that's one of my favorites. Usually for abs, I'll just do, 2 or 3, usually just 2 sets. I'll go till I can't do any good ones and I'll, stop. And that's usually how I conclude my workouts. So again, 3 days a week, roughly 48 to 72 hours between sessions. On the other days, easy cardio, enough to keep moving, but not enough to make you tired or sore. Eat like an adult 3 times a day. Prioritize protein. And just, there's obvious easy junk we all know. So just be aware of that. Start cutting that stuff out. Save the beers, the treats, I only do this once in a while thing for once a week. And then train like you mean it. So whether you're just starting off doing 2 sets of 8 to 12, as you get stronger, more acclimated, you might add a 3rd set. And then as you get stronger still, you might play with other rep ranges. So I hope that helps.